and welcome to Best Laid Plans. This is your host, Sarah Hart-Unger, and this is a podcast where we talk all things planning and planning adjacent. If my voice does not sound entirely its normal self, that's because I had a really rough week. I caught some kind of a virus from my kids, and I'm just coming out of it, and I really spent the week just functioning, but barely. I also felt like, and this is not to whine, people have lots and lots of stuff going on with their health, but you guys know I have this arrhythmia issue that I deal with kind of normally on a day-to-day basis. It doesn't bother me very much, but when I got sick, it bothered me more. And so that was like an extra layer on top of getting sick. And so it was a tough week. I even had 2 out of 3 of my kids go back to school, which is usually a joyous and fun time of year for me. But it was definitely like kind of, I don't know, saddened by the fact that I was not operating at 100%. I think I am coming out of it now, though, which is great because my 3rd kid is going back to school tomorrow. I'm recording this on a Sunday because, again, rough week. And yeah, you'll be hearing this a week after, but hopefully it's also been a really nice re-entry for the 3 of them because I'm counting my Q4 as actually beginning when they're all back to school. For me, that's kind of when I feel like things really begin. I will share 2 bright spots that I had in addition to the back to school fun over a rough week last week. And those 2 things are, number 1, the Hobonichi release. Yes, I have been following it. They've been kind of releasing covers and little tidbits day by day since August the 1st. And my favorite 2 kind of little mini reveals so far have been the beautiful covers from Kyohei Sakaguchi. They are sky themed. One of them is like a blue sky with clouds, and it's an autumn sky. So you can see a little bit of a plant matter that kind of like gives you the season. And then the other one is an autumn, like morning sky with clouds, or that one's not autumn. It's just a morning sky with clouds over a port scene. And they're both beautiful. And I'm super excited about them. And then just a couple of days before this was recorded, there was a release of some stationery products from Tsuki no Iro, including tape flags, stickies, pens, etc. Oh my gosh, they match all of the colors in the cousin and they make me so happy. So I am pretty sure I'm going to be ordering a few accessories with my planner from Hobonichi this year. So speaking of the Hobonichi release, I have done full episodes before on Hobonichi, so I'm not going to do anything that detailed. But if you're listening to this on the day it airs, you can buy the products on release day about a week from today. So they always launch on September 1st at 11 a.m. Japan time. So if you're in the United States, that's actually 10 p.m. Eastern on August 31st, or it's 7 p.m. on the West Coast. You can order from the Hobonichi site itself, or you can order from other real retailers. One U.S. retailer, I have not personally used them, but I've heard a lot of good things about, is Yoseka Stationery. It's spelled Yoseka. I believe they're based in New York. And their website actually says that you can order your Hobonichi gear at 9 p.m. Eastern. So that's a whole hour early, and it is a little bit tempting. The only thing that is very special about ordering from Hobonichi directly is you always get a yearly freebie and a yearly pen. This year's yearly freebie is this little tiny metal robot, which I kind of love because, I don't know, to me, I'm not sure what he was trying to do with this robot, but to me, I'm just going to like wiggle it in my husband's face whenever he wants me to use AI for something that I don't want to. No, that's ridiculous. But I just think a little tiny metal robot is going to make me very, very happy. And I have been collecting the pens. I don't have all the ones I've collected, which is really kind of disappointing, but I'll have to line up the ones I do have. Every year when the release comes out, I want to get out all my Hobonichi, like a legacy gear, and take a picture of all of it because it's definitely something I collect, and I don't collect that many things. So yeah, the release makes me super happy. And again, you can order directly from Hobonichi. I imagine the shipping is going to be expensive this year. The prices already seem to have gone up due to tariffs. And then you can also order from Jet Pens, which is based in the US, Yoseka, or other retailers as well. Usually stuff comes on Amazon eventually too, although I don't think like immediately after launch. I do think prices are not going to be the same as last year. I think everything will have gone up. It's kind of the ways of the world right now. And again, especially for imported products. So I will be just waiting to see exactly how much they have gone up. For me, this is still a non-negotiable. I want my Hobonichi. I think it would have to like 5x itself before well, that's a little bit of an exaggeration and unfair because I have a planner podcast. But you get what I'm saying. I still plan on ordering one, but I absolutely am a little bit worried about what the prices are going to look like. All right, so on to the questions which you guys submitted. I'm going to answer 5 questions today. I do have a little bit of a backlog, and I don't want this to be a super long episode because, again, my voice is still kind of trying to recover. So we've got 5 for you today. So our first question comes from an international listener. I don't know if she wants me to use her name, so I'll just call her C, and she is writing in from Australia. She writes, "Thanks for the inspiration and joy that you spread. I am the same age as you and have 3 kids aged 13, 11, and 6. So wow, very similar to me. Mine are 13, 11, and 7 at the moment." She writes, "I'm an extremely organized person, but your podcast has helped me to manage a lot in terms of the schedules and documentation, especially in the mom role. You regularly refer in many episodes to using Apple Notes, which really confuses me. I have an iPhone, but nowhere is there functionality for me to save documents or files to Apple Notes. I can only save text. Is this only a function for Apple computer users? I would like to understand how Apple Notes works for you as a repository of information. It would be so helpful if there were a few images to go along with the suggestion of something that works so well for you, and then we can seek a substitute that could work for us PC users, if indeed the functionality is only for Apple computer users." She wrote, "I have Googled Apple Notes, tutorial, and other keywords, but I don't totally understand what part of the Notes app works for you." Okay, so you are correct that I largely create my Apple Notes on my computer, not my phone. There are some Apple Notes that I create on my phone, like if I'm just making a little on-the-go list or something like that, I don't want to forget something and I decide to use notes, maybe I'll put it on my phone. Instead, I feel like my phone tends to be where I look at the notes sometimes on the go, and my computer is where I actually create these little file folders. However, there is functionality, I believe, to add images on the phone app as well. You can actually scan in documents that are on paper. You can, man, I should have actually all right, we're pausing this. Give me a second. Let me grab my phone. All right, listener C, I actually just started talking and then realized this was probably not fair to answer without my phone in my hand. So hopefully that all got edited out. I now have my phone with me. What I had said was that I tend to make most of my notes on my laptop. It's true, and I do use a Mac laptop. So that might be part of why I really enjoy this platform. It's very easy for me to dump a graphic into a note by using the screen capture feature. I've learned the keyboard shortcuts for that on the Mac, so it's extremely fast. It's Shift, Control, Command, and 4. That will immediately give you a little kind of way to grab any kind of screen grab, and then I just paste it into the note. I do that all the time for things like I get an email with a restaurant reservation confirmation on vacation, and I just want to dump that in the note so I can refer to it. I do that for a lot of my travel type documents. Sometimes, for example, when I bought the kids or signed up for the kids' dance classes, they sent me a little table of where they were. Okay, great. Screen grab, dump that into Apple Notes. Now I can very easily see, okay, where's that Wednesday pickup, etc. So I guess that is how I tend to do it, but it is possible to add images and links and things directly from your phone. So I'm holding my phone right now. I know you can't see that, but I'm going to pretend I'm writing a note. And if you look on the bottom of the Apple Notes app, you'll see that there's a little paperclip. You can do attach file. You can do choose photo or video. You can do scan documents, which will allow you to scan a piece of paper and then it will add the document to your note, scan text, etc. So yeah, it's the little paperclip. Now, you are in a different country. Your Apple Notes might look different than my Apple Notes. And so I super apologize if this is not correct. But when I go to create a new note, that is the key to adding all kinds of media. It's that little paperclip, and then it gives you all the options. Other features there are you can add little checkboxes. You can make a table, which I've done on many occasions. I usually make a table for my summer camp weeks, or keeping track of the weeks of summer. So I've used that feature on Apple Notes. And again, all of those are part of that menu that you see on the bottom when you go to create a note. But that paperclip and that little table and the little checkbox are the ones that I use the most frequently. So I hope this helps. I hope that the reason you asked about this wasn't because your version doesn't have those things, because I know that it may be that different countries just allow different functionality in their products, but that is how I use Apple Notes. So mine do have links, they have media, they have, scanned PDFs, they have pictures, etc. And you're right, that does really help. I mean, some of my notes are just notes, like the ones I use to draft my episodes and to write my ads. They're mostly just notes, but a lot of the sort of reference material can be a mix. Like I'm just going into my kids folder right now. And even like with camp, I definitely screenshotted a lot of little things. And so I think without that functionality, I might have chosen a different app, such as Notion. I know is great for, kind of similar with a lot more functionality, actually. The reason I don't use it is because I think I'd get overwhelmed and lost in the weeds with how much they do offer. But Notion would be a great option. And then if you wanted to be in the Microsoft ecosystem, then using OneNote. And then Google, I think it's Google. I think they got rid of Keep. I don't know. Sorry, I'm not up to date with Google. I should probably do a whole Google multiverse episode again soon because I know so many people love it. But previously they had Google Keep, and I know they have Google Tasks. And I am sure there is a Google kind of filing cabinet version. Of course, you could always stick stuff in Google Drive as long as your drive is better organized than my Google Drive. Because let's just say that is not a place that I have organized. I just treat it as a giant bin that I can search for things as needed. And thus far, it has worked for my purposes. All right, I really, really digressed. And now I have to go back and find my episode notes because guess what? I use Apple Notes to draft my episodes. And now I've been navigating all around. But I'm back because, again, Apple Notes is pretty easy to use. And that's probably why I really like it so much. All right, we're going to take a quick break and we're going to get to the next question. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Green Chef. I love fall energy, like the fresh start of back to school, plus all of that delicious fall food. Warm, homey flavors just make everything feel comforting. Plus, with the new seasonal energy, it's the perfect time to reset and bring healthy habits back into focus. Green Chef can help you do just that, even if your season is packed with school festivities and events. Green Chef's meals are made up of real, clean ingredients, and they help you build lasting healthy habits without the hassle. With 80-plus dietitian-approved weekly meal options, Green Chef makes it easy to find meals that fit your lifestyle. Pick from Mediterranean, gluten-free, plant-based, and protein-heavy. There's even a gut and brain health option and calorie-smart choices, too. They really are family-friendly, and my kids are always so excited for our Green Chef dinners. Make this fall your healthiest yet with Green Chef. Head to greenchef.com/50bestlaid and use code 50bestlaid to get 50% off your first month, then 20% off for 2 months with free shipping. That's code 50bestlaid, as in 50bestlaid, at greenchef.com/50bestlaid. Today's episode comes to you with support from IXL. The autumn season is in full swing, and IXL helps keep your homeschool lessons or school enrichment structured and steady, whether you're following a set curriculum or creating your own. I personally love the simplicity that IXL offers. I don't have to dig through endless resources. IXL is organized by grade and topic, so I can jump right into what each child needs. My kids have been using IXL for years, and I really trust it to help solidify concepts and meet them where they are. Just like each leaf changes at its own pace, each child learns differently. IXL adapts so kids can move ahead when they're ready or revisit the topic until it truly clicks. Make an impact on your child's learning. Get IXL now. And Best Laid Plans listeners can get an exclusive 20% off IXL membership when they sign up today at IXL.com/plans. Visit IXL.com/plans to get the most effective learning program out there at the best price. Today's episode is brought to you with support from Mint Mobile. If you're still overpaying for wireless, it's time to say yes to saying no. At Mint Mobile, their favorite word is no. No contracts, no monthly bills, no overages, no hidden fees, no BS. That's why you should say yes to making the switch and getting premium wireless for $15 per month. Mint Mobile's plans start at $15 per month, and there are no unexpected overages or hidden fees. All Mint Mobile plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So ready to say yes to saying no? Make the switch at mintmobile.com/BLP. That's mintmobile.com/BLP. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 per month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. All right, we are back from our break and we have 4 more questions to answer. I always talk longer in these Q&As than I think I will. Like I look at it and I'm like, surely that's just 8 minutes total. And then 25 minutes later, I'm still here. Okay, question number 2. This one comes from a listener named Elle. She writes, my Q&A question is this. I am a teacher and currently in a 6-year certificate program to get my educational administration degree, which will open up principal and other educational leadership programs down the road. I have a lot of large papers and other assignments for my program and wanted to get your thoughts. When you're working on a big project or paper, depending on your schedule, do you find it more manageable to do a little bit each day or to devote large chunks of time, maybe once or twice a week, to the project? This is a super interesting question. And I definitely think the answer is going to vary from person to person. And I also think sometimes there's like, people think like working way ahead and doing things in little tiny chunks is somehow better. And I will push back a little bit against that. And that is not to say, like, if you have something due on Wednesday, you should start it at Tuesday at 10 p.m. But at the same time, I think sometimes like a enough time kind of strategy can work as long as you're not cutting things so close that you're putting yourself kind of in a stress danger zone. So if I had a project due, let's say on a Monday, I probably would be happier planning to do, I don't know, a large chunk of it on Wednesday, a large chunk of it on Thursday. Friday is just there in case, if I have those weekdays to work on it, rather than spreading it out across the entire week. And that's because anytime you go to set up to do work on a project, to kind of get yourself in the context of thinking about that project, that is kind of like lost time. And so in order to avoid the kind of context switching, and that's definitely a Cal Newport concept. If you've heard his podcast, you've heard context switching a lot. But I think when you're sitting down to work on a project that's going to take considerable cognitive load, you do have to like get in the zone. And what that is context switching. It takes you a minute to be like, what am I doing? What was I looking at? Where are my references? Am I in the frame of mind to think about that? And because that costs time and energy, try to do that fewer times and work for longer. That doesn't mean don't take breaks and that you have to work for 5 hours at a time. You can take kind of more neutral breaks, but if you're able to, if you have control of your week in that sort of way, then I actually think fewer, longer sessions and not too much lead time before things are due so that you do feel like, yeah, I got to get this done. Sometimes I think that's the best cure for perfectionism is having a deadline. Again, not a deadline that's so close that it's making you sweat, but a deadline that's like, yep, got to finish this in these next couple half days and I can get it done as best as I can. Then that can be helpful. So yeah, that would be my opinion. I would be interested to hear if other people are like, no way, I really like the slow and steady route. And I mean, there are exceptions to this. For example, I almost always just record one podcast at once when I'm recording for Best Laid Plans. When I do Best of Both Worlds, I batch them because I'm having to coordinate with another person. But with Best Laid Plans, I just do one at a time. I think that's because podcasting is a pretty intense activity. I really want to be on. I really want to be in the right frame of mind. And I don't know, coming at it in that kind of authentic state, I don't know that I have it in me to like solo podcast for 3 hours at a stretch. I think it would start to just, I don't know, lose some of the spark of me coming to the microphone in general. And so I prefer to actually break that up and record one episode at a time rather than doing, let's say, an entire half day of solo recording once a month and then not worrying about it until the next month. Plus, then how could I tell you about getting sick and how I watched the entire Taylor Swift interview and how incredibly amazing it was? By the way, I left that out of the first part of the episode. The two things that made me incredibly happy were both the Hobonichi release and watching Taylor Swift get interviewed by Jason Kelce on New Heights. I was sick. I was like in a daze, and there was nothing better than just binge watching that entire interview. I know not everybody loves Taylor Swift, but I happen to be someone that does. You guys, she mentioned planning so many times. So many times planning came up, and I'm just trying to scheme how I could get my book into Taylor's hands. Not even because I want her publicity. I mean, that would be amazing, but I just want her to read it. So if you have ideas, if you have connections to Taylor, I actually might have my own slight connection to Taylor, but I'm not sure if I can use it. So anyway, back to the questions. This is a very digressing episode. All right, question number 3. And this one kind of made my heart melt a little bit. This person wrote, Sarah, I'd love to know if you still recommend making an ideal week during the newborn stage. And if so, how would you do it logistically when you have a baby who's feeding on demand? For context, I also have a 6, 4, and 2-year-old, and the 6 and 4-year-old will be starting school when the baby's about 1.5 months. And so we'll have some hard landscape. But I'm currently taking an extended maternity leave, so I won't be going back to work or introducing childcare for the baby and toddler, so most of our day will be open to my own preferences. I don't want to just waste the days away, but I also don't want to overimpose structure on a time when being more loose is better fitting. Oh my goodness. I definitely don't think a lot of structure can be imposed because, I mean, you know the drill. This is your 4th kid. I don't need to tell you that your baby is probably going to follow most of their own schedule. Obviously, there are things you can do to shape their schedule a little bit. I mean, there are many, many courses online available about how to get your baby to nap at specific times. But at the end of the day, that may or may not work. And you're going to have some flexibility there. And I also just want you to remember that even if you don't get anything, quote, done just you being there to support these babies during this time is a huge win. And, nothing more is really expected of you. And this is not in any way to say like women shouldn't work or do other things, but if you've decided to stay home and the babies are your focus, like that is also like absolutely enough. I do wonder if instead of trying to like block out an ideal week, I definitely wouldn't do that. I might have a loose idea of like, these are the things I want to get done each day with 0 times attached. So like, let's say you're like, you know what? I want to make dinner on Monday so that we can eat it on Monday and Tuesday. Then like your only task is going to be during that day, find a time to prep that dinner. And hopefully it's a dinner that can be reheated so you can be flexible about the timing. So you've created your tasks for the day and you keep them to a doable amount, but you don't plan exactly what hour that is going to happen. You might have an idea that you'll do it during some period of downtime, but like when that will happen, the baby's going to decide and then they will. So yeah, I think less is more during this period. Be very, very kind to yourself. Make sure you get sleep. That is more important than checking anything off of your to-do list, and be very, very loose about time frames, because that's certainly better than trying to create some kind of a, as you said, structured schedule and then realizing that it's not going to work out by noon or something like that. But best of luck. I'm so excited for you. That is a lot of babies and you're going to have so much fun. All right. We have a 3-part question to finish us off. I know I said 5 questions. This is really 6, but they were all came from one person. So we're going to answer this in 3 parts. All right. This person writes, I'm a primary school teacher, so many teacher questions today, and I have a teacher planner and a planner for my personal life. Should I try to have one just for both? I feel like it won't all fit in one planner though. Both my current teacher and personal planners have specific things in them that the other doesn't have. So I know I say like one source of truth, and I think that's generally true about your calendar. However, I think it's totally fine if you have very predictable hours for your work situation, like where you can just assume work, this is school, is from 8 to 4 every day or whatever your teaching hours are. And the rest of your life is always going to be everything else, and school is just a separate universe. I think it's totally fine to have 2 completely separate systems. The only caveat is that, if you have one that has a calendar, let's say it is your non-school one, then you just always need to have some demarcation for when you're in school, knowing that, okay, during those hours, I'm looking at my school planner. And if you ever have a school event that is outside of your typical hours, you're going to want to account for that in your regular planner. But I think otherwise the material could be completely separate. My analogy for myself as a physician is that, I have Epic, which is I don't have it, but the institution I work for has it, which is an electronic medical record. And in many ways, it's like an electronic planner. Like it's got my tasks of which patients I need to call. It has my appointments in there. But I know that I'm only looking at that when I'm in clinical hours, and the clinical hours themselves are demarcated in my Hobonichi. So there's like no risk of me sort of like missing something because, I don't know, like I had something at work at night and that was only captured in Epic. If I had something at night, I would have written it down in my regular planner so that I knew about it and knew about this event that's outside of the contained clinical hours that I typically work. So I think you're good, even though I talk about one source of truth or one master calendar. All right, the next question, this person writes, when do I do my monthly and weekly reviews? Should I be doing my work and personal life separately or together? Now for this, I actually think you should do them together because so much of the review is going to pertain to both. You are going to be going through like how busy you are and how you feel and what goals you met and what goals you're prioritizing. And you're going to actually be deciding like, is this a work prioritizing month or a home prioritizing month, etc. And since you're going to be doing that, you might as well do this part all at once. And then as you're generating your goals, you would want to have a category for home or maybe more than one category for home. Maybe it's personal, family, household, whatever, and then a category for work. And I think that is going to allow you to still come up with the right balance of tasks in those different realms. So I would actually recommend doing the review processes together. If you are in a period of work where there's just not a lot that's changing, you're kind of on autopilot, you might not even have that many work-specific goals, but I still think it's really nice for you to acknowledge where you are in your work life as you're planning the rest of life, because you only have one set of time, only one self, and so one is going to impact the other. And then finally, your last question was, how long should it take to implement the routines of your nested planning goals, like the monthly and weekly reviews? So everybody's going to be different because everybody's reviews or planning processes at these different time horizons is going to be slightly different. The idea is that you customize and you figure out what you need to do each week, what you need to do each month, etc. And someone's list might be different than someone else's. So it's going to vary slightly. However, I like to give like a basic guideline, and I think that you're going to need at least an hour, 30 to 60 minutes for the week, more if you're also going to be like clearing the decks and doing an inbox clean out at the same time. For a month, maybe an hour, 90 minutes, maybe 2 hours. For a season, I think it's worth a few hours or a half day if you can swing it. And then I think almost a full day. And it's not like you're going to be planning the whole day, but you want to be like in a relaxed frame of mind and like thinking and looking back and reflecting. So like up to a day for annual, I think can be great. But I will also say the more you do these planning rituals, the quicker you get. And that also you don't have to do them all in one sitting. I lots of times will sit down to plan a season and then be like, okay, I have an hour so I can get started and then I'll finish tomorrow or over the weekend or whatever. You can be flexible with these things. I think some planning is often better than no planning also. So if you're like, well, I don't have that much time, I have 15 minutes, great. Spend at least 15 minutes doing a cursory look at your week and what you have coming up ahead and maybe setting a couple goals, and then maybe things will expand if you're able to carve out more time going further. If you have a newborn, maybe you don't want to do some of these planning sessions, and that's also okay too. You can choose the seasons of your life where you want to go more detailed in your planning processes and the seasons where you want to go more minimalist. All right. With that, I'm going to end this episode. I hope you have a wonderful week. If you are headed back to school this week, enjoy it. If you are making your Hobonichi shopping list and you want to talk about what you're excited to get, you can send that to me. And if you also love Taylor's New Heights interview and it was a bright spot for you for the month, then you can tell me that too. All right, you can find me at theshoebox.com. Oh, and actually, I should mention that we are about to be on the cusp of a new month, so you should sign up for my newsletter. There's going to be fun stuff in the September one, probably some course announcement type stuff. So if you want to be the first to get that information, you want to be on the newsletter. So that's theshoebox.com/newsletter to sign up. You just put your email in there. I never, ever, ever, I don't even know how I would share your emails, but never, ever going to sell your emails or anything like that. And I send one email per month. It's very easy to unsubscribe. I use the MailChimp client, so very low commitment there. And then you can find the show notes at theshoebox.com, theshubox.com. You can leave me a comment there or send me an email with any of your comments or questions for next month's Q&A at sarah.hart.unger, UNGER@gmail.com. All right, have a wonderful week. Happy planning, and I'll be in your feed next Monday.
This podcast is part of the Sound Advice FM network. Sound Advice FM, women's voices amplified.